Episode 39 of the Tool Bags Up Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Sebastian Caballero. I got Mikey Mike and I got Austin here doing a little short NFL segment here today because some guys did end up getting paid. If we did one for Mahomes, we got to do it for these other guys, for the smaller guys, right? So, first guy to sign his big contract was Myles Garrett, defensive end for the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are opening up the checkbook, 5 years, $125 million extension to the former first overall pick. And then I think a day or two later, Derrick Henry did sign a 4-year, $50 million deal with the Titans. Henry did get franchise tagged by the Titans, but well-deserved, especially after last year. He was the NFL's leading rusher and obviously carried that team. Tannehill had something to do with that, my boy, but it was Derrick Henry that carried the Titans all the way to the AFC Championship. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk a little bit about Dak and the opportunity that he missed. Guys, let's start with the two guys that did get paid and that did sign their contracts. What are your thoughts on both?
I think Myles Garrett finally, one of the best person, and a lot of people, you can argue that he might be in a Hall of Fame career. He's double digits in the first 2 seasons of his in sacks in the first 2 seasons of his career. I feel like if you ask the question, out of those 3 people, Dak, Derrick Henry, and Myles Garrett, who's going to last the longest or who's going to have more impact in their contract, I want to say Myles Garrett, especially as a defensive end. You're going to have a lot more playing time, especially on that defense. He's the cornerstone. You got to get a defensive lineman. You got to get a defensive end that's going to be one of the best. And I think he's going to be that exact same person and be that name for the Cleveland Browns. So as far as it comes to Derrick Henry, sign him up. He was your best running back. He's still young. Not a lot of people not a lot of running back comes to the league with that type of impact that he has on the team. I've always said, and a lot of people, whoever hears this and they know who I am, I've always said that the running back is the running back position is like a revolving door. There's so many of them and they have a small shelf life. But if you have someone as good as Derrick Henry, you want to at least keep him up there and try to get him his second, that RB2. You have to have a second guy behind him to help him out because you don't know how long he's going to last. So that's my 2 cents when it comes to those 2 new contracts there.
Yeah, for me, totally agree with Mike that Myles Garrett is probably going to have one of the most impactful careers, especially with this new contract and everything. But I have to sway more towards Derrick Henry. That guy carried the Titans to almost Super Bowl last year. And, year after year, he just put in the numbers. He's been doing it since he was in high school, college, NFL. He's just been an absolute beast, just running through everyone, stiff-arming him to the ground. This guy, he runs like no one else. Honestly, he's a one-man show, and it's very good for the Titans to have him on board, and they just got to really build around them and hope they can put something together around them within this contract.
Mikey, you missed 1 point with Myles Garrett, bro. Not only did he average double-digit sacks, but that guy has one hell of a right hook, especially with a helmet in his hand. But I agree, man. Myles Garrett has only been in the league for 3 years. He has been hurt, so I guess the injuries are concerning. But he's still young, man, and you could see him take off and not only average double-digit sacks, but he seems like the type of guy that could get you 20 sacks in a year, which, we're talking about, Defensive Player of the Year, talking about J.J. Watt, Aaron Donald territory there. And I think that, he could really be a force for the Browns. I think the fact that they still have a quarterback on a rookie deal and they still have some other guys that are on some pretty team-favorable contracts, it definitely helps out. They're able to give him his money. Same goes for Derrick Henry. Well-deserved. I'm really glad that they paid him because, again, he carried that team. And what helped him also is that they don't have a superstar quarterback. Yes, Tannehill's locked in $29 million a year, but that, obviously now compared to Mahomes and, some of the other guys, is a pretty team-friendly contract. And now that allowed them to pay Derrick Henry. And like we were talking about in the chat, even if he does only give you 2 or 3 solid years, if he can produce the way that he did last year, that contract's worth it, man. And I think the Titans are in a very winnable division. And I think in the short term, the Titans are going to end up winning. But I feel like Myles Garrett, they're going to end up winning because he's going to have a bigger impact on the team. But I feel like Myles Garrett is going to end up being a long-term better player than Derrick Henry. Let's talk about the other guy here. We've talked about Dak a lot. I feel like we're like kind of like Fox Sports every time we talk about football, bro, because it's just fucking Dak. And then when we talk about NBA, it's LeBron. But I mean, imagine, bro. So Dak was franchise tag. His contract situation has been a discussion here for fucking months. And there was reports yesterday that just before the deadline, Dak finally was like trying to get a deal together, and the Cowboys didn't budge. They were just like, "Nah, dude, it's too fucking late. We had all this time to do it," and they even came out guaranteeing him $100 million, and he didn't take it. So now the season's a question mark at this point. You know, we think we're gonna have a season, but you never know. And since he signed the franchise tag, he actually, if there is no season, he would be franchised for next year also. So huge risk right there taken by Dak. Should have taken the money and ran. But I don't know. I see some long-term effects that I'll get to after I hear from you guys. When you guys heard about those reports, you know, because Dak has just been like, no, I want $45 million in the last year. I want a 4-year deal and all that. And all of a sudden in the last minute, it's like, oh, wait. You know, let's try to put something together. Like, come on, dude. You should have done better than that. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I mean, for sure. That's actually news to me. I didn't even hear about the whole, if we don't have the season this year, then it gets franchise tag for the next year. I didn't get to see that part, I'm sorry. But it makes sense, man. And now you made a decision. You didn't get the contract that you wanted. You know, and just like you said, Sebastian, you wanted to backtrack and you want to get something the most as you can, which I don't blame him. It is what it is. He wants to get paid. But now you gotta stick to where you how do you call it? You showed yourself into that hole that you're in. So you gotta dig yourself up from there. Make sure that you just compete, man. Let's see how that works out with the Cowboys. But it is what it is now, I guess. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, especially seeing Dak trying to hold out for a better deal, try to put some contracts together, and then now the news coming out that they tried at the very last minute. Like, I mean, you can't be asking for all this type of money and then actually try putting an effort towards putting a deal together at the very last minute. I mean, if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. So, I mean, it is what it is. It was a horrible move by Dak and his clientele, whether it's agent, whoever it is handling his business. But it's not a good look on him at all.
Bro, by 1 fucking year.
Yeah. I remember two or three episodes ago, I was like, yeah, you gotta sign this, man. You gotta do what you gotta do. And now look where we're talking about him. You know, it's a tough situation that he's in. But it is what it is. You have to go. We gotta pull it out anyway.
Bro, he got greedy for no fucking reason, Mike. Like, you know, this COVID shit has been going on since the negotiations started. So it's like, how do you not know? Like, they're already paying you more than what you were worth. In his eyes, he was worth more than that, whatever. But it's just like, his biggest issue was that 5th year. Like, you're guaranteed a contract for that 5th year. If it really doesn't plan out, like if it doesn't work out, like you could renegotiate your contract and if you need to, man. And like, now there was this huge risk because if there's no season, he's franchise tagged for next year. But even moreover, if there is a season, think about Jerry Jones right now. Like, I would be pissed as an owner because we've been battling, going back and forth for like 3 months, and like it's almost like he thought that Jerry was gonna like be soft about it and budge, and he didn't. And then it's like, bro, no, fuck you. Like, you're gonna come to me literally at the last minute to ask me for a contract negotiation. You better fucking go win me the division and take me to at least the NFC Championship. If not, Andy Dalton, baby. Andy Dalton time. Honestly, though, you know what I was really thinking about? What if the Cowboys go 6-10, they acquire a high enough draft pick, and end up taking like a Justin Fields or something like that? Like, if they have an opportunity to get Justin Fields, I'm not keeping Dak. I'm not going to overpay for Dak when I could just get a really solid QB on a rookie deal.
In a really good system there in Ohio State, and he should succeed. That being said, with the whole corona concern and a lot of people still getting positive. I mean, I think I saw a report today, 17 or so guys from tested positive recently. So, I mean, the state of college football is uncertain right now. And so that being said, the draft is also uncertain on whether or not, players are going to be able to come out if they had, played their year or so. So it's very questionable, but the move itself, the way you were describing it before you kept on freezing and stuff, sounded really good.
Well, first of all, I think you got to do a little bit worse than 6-10 to get to Justin Fields. I know Trevor Lawrence is going to be the best quarterback next year in the draft. I mean, I don't know if Justin Fields will drop, but I see him in the top 10. And if the Cowboys are in the top 10 in the draft, then yeah, why not pick it up? I'll stop playing Dak because at the end of the day, just like your boy, you got Andy Dalton, you signed him to a little bit of an extension. Have him play behind him. He's a veteran. You're not going to lose out on any of the experience with Justin Fields being back there. It's still a good quarterback. And, having Justin Fields go into that offense, if hypothetically speaking, that actually works out, that's going to be a pretty good offense to watch, man. I would love to see that play out.
And it opens up the checkbook for the Cowboys, bro. They now have the flexibility to go sign other players. And that's honestly, it's fucking scary, to be honest with you. Let's talk about Madden. Let's talk about Madden ratings real quick. Because everybody's salty as fuck about their ratings except for, Mahomes and McCaffrey that ended up being 99s and Aaron Donald. But, man, everybody was uptight about their ratings, man. What were your thoughts? Did any of the ratings surprise you at all?
One thing that surprised me, because obviously me as a Steeler fan, I follow a lot of Steeler Twitter. And the biggest thing was that Cam Hayward, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and TJ Watt aren't even 90s. Those are your best players. Those are Pro Bowl players. Those are people that made it. And they're, all these Steeler Twitters were going off saying, why the hell did you do this? Well, I can't believe Madden. They don't know what's going on with the thing. That's the one thing that caught me by surprise. And then another thing is Big Ben isn't a top 10 quarterback. He's less than an 80 overall. But it's okay. Don't worry about it. That when you play and you end up going undefeated in Madden, you get their star rating up, you'll be fine. Trust me. We'll be good.
Mikey, let me tell you something about Big Ben, bro. In 2 weeks, we're doing quarterback rankings. Did I freeze again? No. In 2 weeks, we're doing quarterback rankings for fantasy football. You're not going to be happy where I have Big Ben this year. Austin, go ahead.
That's fine.
Yeah, me personally, I like playing Madden a lot. So it's interesting to see the players' overalls come out. But honestly, nothing really surprised me. Nothing really stuck out like a sore thumb. I felt like they decently had everyone where they kind of should have been. But, I mean, it's all preference. I mean, if you believe, Myles Garrett should have got a 99, then he should have got a 99. It's a very controversial subject because you think differently than someone else. So with what they come out with, it's not that bad. I don't care.
The only one that really, I agree with you, TJ Watt is at least a 93. At least a 93.
Was ranking, they had him the best graded rusher in the league last year. And you're not going to have him at least a 90 or whatever.
It doesn't make sense. The one that did kind of piss me off, and I get his decline, but Aaron Rodgers is not, is another one that shouldn't be below a 90, man. He's still Aaron Rodgers, bro. He's not old. I don't know, man.
All right, I have one that really bothered me. Deshaun Watson, 88. He should have been a 90-something, too.
Deshaun Watson should have been a 95.
Yeah. Damn.
Well, then, I mean, they had Lamar at 94. So, I mean, then you have Lamar 98, 96, 97.
Yeah, but his speed is going. I think Henry Ruggs he's the fastest
rookie.
He's the fastest rookie. I thought it was the fastest player.
Pick him up. Pick him up. I'm telling you, dude. If you do not pick him up in fantasy, we'll get to that. But and Madden, pick him up, bro. I used to love getting fucking guys like Deshaun Jackson, whatever, bro. Just throw the ball deep. But final thoughts.
I can't believe Big Ben is less than an 80, but that's beyond me. I don't want to talk about a Madden rating right now. But congratulations on both again with those contracts, and I can't wait till football season starts. Hopefully it does. Let's see how that goes. Those are my final thoughts.
Nice. No real final thoughts besides what's looming in the upcoming week. which I hope you can bring it up to the fans. But it's very interesting. It deals with fantasy football.
Final thoughts. Wednesday, we are releasing our first episode of the cheat sheet, as it is our fantasy football show. So stay tuned for that. That's it, guys. This is the secret to winning your fantasy football league. We got Mike, Austin, and our boy JT, who is not on the show, but he will be joining us for those episodes of the cheat sheet. That's it. Every Wednesday for the next 23 weeks. Set everything aside. You're going to get an episode of the cheat sheet. That's how you win your fantasy football league this year. See you guys.
Hopefully we follow our own advice.
Yeah. Dale. Continuing on with today's episode, got to shift over to MLB because the season starts next week. Thank God. Holy shit, man. I'm excited, but I'm not at the same time. I'm sure you guys feel about the same. A lot of new changes. I'm interested to see some of the experiments, like the NL having a DH. Hopefully that sticks around. I've never actually been a fan of it, but it makes sense. All the sense in the world to have DHs in both leagues. What are your guys' expectations? I know that some of you guys have some bittersweet feelings about the season itself, but like, what are you guys expecting to see starting next week?
I think it's going to be janky, but it's going to be baseball. It's definitely going to be a watered down version of baseball. And make sure to take pictures of your favorite players once you see them on TV, because at any moment they could be out, not because they hurt themselves, but because they tested positive. And I think that's going to be one of the main issues that MLB faces, is just that guys are dropping left and right. But janky baseball, compromised baseball, it's still baseball, and I do think that in the end, the teams that you expected to be there will be there. So that's good. I'm excited.
Like Sheen said, I mean, there are some teams. I think the teams that you expect to be there are gonna be there. But I think what you would see in a shortened season, you're gonna see where there's guys who come out the first half kind of slow and then pick up their stats as the second half goes on. I think you're gonna see some good players hit 210. 220, and really good players not hit a lot of power numbers because they really didn't get going because they didn't see, 500, 600 at bats. So aside of that, I mean, it's going to be funny to see some of these guys to not hit what they usually hit and whatnot. So hopefully it doesn't hurt anybody going into free agency. But at the end of the day, it is a lot of pressure. Only 60 games. A lot of teams, got to perform. A lot of guys still trying to get paid. But I think at the end of the day, you are going to see the same powerhouse teams that are still stacked with the powerful number 2 and 3 starters, and teams that are deep are still going to be the best teams that make it.
Yeah, I think you're going to see some exciting baseball because it's only 60 games, so it's going to be a sprint to the finish. So these guys are going to have a playoff mentality when it comes to playing these games. It might be like a little bit of a rusty start because some of these guys probably haven't, prepared as well as they would have, for a regular spring training. With the shortened summer camp, they needed to, rest things. So maybe the first week things start off a little slowly, but I think you're going to see some exciting baseball. You're going to see like the players play with more energy because every game matters. And when it comes to the playoffs, for the most part, the same teams are gonna be there. The top guys are gonna be there, but you could possibly see, a surprise team that somebody wasn't really expecting. With the shortened season, they have a great start. A great month, and they're probably in the hunt the entire way.
Yeah, so just to piggyback off that last point there, I'm expecting 3 things for this MLB season. Number 1, the intensity level as high as it's ever been, because really it's a 2-month season, and how many teams, how many seasons have all 30 teams been in a playoff race the last 2 months of the season? You get what I'm saying? So I expect the intensity level to be through the roof, which is awesome. I expect pitching to dominate this year. Like I think pitching numbers are going to be ridiculous, like insane, because they don't have to prepare for a 162 game season. It's really a sprint right now at this point. I think a lot of these pitchers are just going to let loose and go all out, and their numbers are going to be insane. But I'm also expecting a lot of surprises, man. I think there's obviously some clear-cut teams that are obviously going to be there, but I feel like we're going to have a lot of surprises jump up and make the playoffs, especially with the expanded playoffs. let's kind of get to that first. What are the teams that you think could, jump out of nowhere and either win a division or make the playoffs this year?
I got a couple. I think that they're pretty much the last couple of years they've been the patron saints of the sleepers, and that's the Rays. They're the little engine that could. They always are. So I don't think that they're gonna win their division, but I think that they're gonna make the playoffs, and I think they're gonna be a real force to be reckoned with. And one of my award winners, which we'll reveal later, is a Tampa Bay Ray. I'm also looking at the Reds. I really believe in this pitching staff. I think Trevor Bauer was off. Something was off with him once he arrived in Cincinnati, but I'm confident that he's going to pick it up. And then, of course, you can't – Luis Castillo and Sonny Gray are coming off of great seasons. So there's three horses right there. And like we've talked about in other podcasts, those three horses are really important in this such a small sample. It's pretty much playoff baseball all the time. And another sleeper is the Angels. I'm really excited to see the Angels play. I'm excited for a full season of Ohtani. I think Joe Adele is going to make a contribution at the big league level, and of course, they still have the best player in baseball. I think this season. Second best player in your universe, but no, but it. So this kind of plays into your hand. I don't think he's going to be as good as he has been in years past because I think he's got a lot on his mind this year. With his wife, he's already contemplating not playing. I don't think that bodes well for him being the best player on the planet this year. He's still going to be elite, but nevertheless, I'm still really excited for the Angels because Trout's still going to be elite. I'm excited for Joe Adele, and I'm excited for Ohtani. So the Angels, the Rays, and the Reds are a couple sleepers of mine.
I'm going to have to agree with you with the Angels. I was hoping you weren't going to say them, but I'm glad you did. And you forgot to mention that they got one of the best players in the league who probably should have won the MVP,
yeah.
Anthony Rendon. So now we have Rendon, Trout, Ohtani, both sides. So that's a team that if a big starter does come out of there, someone does step up in the 60 games, who knows what happens. That's going to be a crazy lineup and a crazy team. That's going to be a really good team. And another team that, well, they're always good, but I think this is a year they have the potential to do it, is the Braves. Great hitting, 1 through 9. But now they Soroka, they have a Cy Young type of pitcher who proved, had one of the lowest ERAs in the league, and he could be that horse in a 3-man rotation kind of league coming 60 games. And they ride him out, and they have another guy step up and be a solid number 2. That could be another NL team that could really, take over. So those are two teams, and it's good to see the Angels, be talked about now in contention to actually win after being so bad. But this is a tough division.
All right, so I have two teams that I think are going to surprise some people. One of them was already mentioned, one hasn't been. So the first one I'm going to go with, the one that has been mentioned, is the Cincinnati Reds. I think that's a team that not only can make the playoffs, but I think that's a team that, to me, is the favorite to win their division. In the NL Central, I think they got their top 3 arms are very good with Castillo, Gray, who's coming off a rebound year, and Trevor Bauer should be better than what he was last season. They have good bullpen. They have good bullpens armed with Amir Garrett and I think Bryce Iglesias too. I think he's still on that team. And then when you look at the offseason moves that they made with the bats, it was Nick Castellanos and Mike Moustakas. Those are guys that can hit 30, 40 home runs in a 162-game season. So I think the Reds are putting themselves in a good position to make a run. And then the other team is the Chicago White Sox. The White Sox made a lot of noise, made a lot of really smart and, I think, productive moves in the offseason. They picked up 2 lefty arms in Gio Gonzalez and Dallas Keuchel, former Cy Young Award winner. And they also went out and got Nomar Mazara, the outfielder. He'll probably start in right field for them. They signed Yasmani Grandal to, I believe, a 1-year deal. They signed him for big money, but it was only a 1-year deal. And they added one of the best DHs in the game in Edwin Encarnacion. So the offense is definitely there. Luis Roberts, one of the top prospects in all of baseball, should be the starting center fielder for them to match up with Nomar in right and Eloy Jimenez, who has one of the high ceilings in all of baseball. And then you already have
Hispanic players.
What?
A lot of Hispanic guys.
Yeah. And speaking of more Hispanic guys, in fact, 2 Cubans that were already big contributors for them In the infield were Yoan Moncada and Jose Abreu.
Yeah, so I was surprised that nobody had mentioned the White Sox before Hector there. I mean, the White Sox are loaded, man. They're like the definition of a sleeper because they just have potential. You get me? Like they do have two studs on the mound. They have Giolito and they have Keuchel that they signed in the offseason. But they just have so much talent, unproven talent on that roster that it wouldn't surprise me if they win overnight. Well, not 90 games, but if based off a 162 game season, that they would win the division, win over 90 games in a full season. Because there's just so much potential there with the White Sox. And again, the AL Central isn't like a definitive division. The Twins are really probably the favorites in that division, but they're always up and down. You really don't know what you're gonna get from the Twins. 3 years ago, it seemed like they were gonna take over the division, and then the next year they ended up missing the playoffs. But I'm sorry, they didn't win the division. They made it as a wild card team. But I think the White Sox are definitely a sleeper. And then the other one that I think is a sleeper, not necessarily because of any of the moves that they made player wise, but the Phillies. I love that Joe Girardi was hired by the Phillies. I said it a couple years ago when the Nationals were looking for a manager. Like, I would have, as soon as the Yankees let him go, I would have given him a blank check and have him sign it because I know he was going to get me back to winning a World Series. The Phillies have talent up and down the lineup. I think their pitching's a little weak, but Girardi is going to make a huge difference. Don't be surprised if they end up winning their division there. I think that's also a really big factor for the Angels that you guys were talking about earlier. Joe Madden being the manager of the Angels, that's a huge add-on to that team because Joe Madden wins everywhere that he goes. Let's talk about now there's some teams that were great or that we expect to be great but could potentially fall off this season.
Well, you just mentioned one of them for me, and that's the Twins. I think last year the stars aligned a little bit for them. They just had career years across the board. I think Nelson Cruz takes a step back this year. Father Time, I think, is going to catch him. They lost James Rowson, which was kind of the brainchild behind their big offensive boom, breaking all these records, hitting all these home runs. So I think the Twins are going to take a little bit of a step back. I also think the A's are going to take a step back. Another team that had the stars aligned. Matt Chapman with a career year. Marcus Semien was an MVP caliber shortstop next year or last year. It would appear that they both hit their ceiling last year because they were both MVP caliber guys. I wouldn't be surprised if they take a step back. And the A's are just, I mean, at the end of the day, they're always the team that's playing with the least amount of chips. And that's the kind of thing that's tough to sustain contention with. So I wouldn't be surprised if they took a step back as well. And the obvious one for me is the Red Sox. They weren't a super team last year, but they won 84 games. It's respectable, even though it was an underachievement for them. But I think this year they're going to suck. I think they're going to legitimately not be a good team. I would not be surprised if they finish. They're not going to finish last because the Orioles are still going to own the basement of that division. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Blue Jays finish above them.
Well, yeah, Sheehan took two of my teams, and I'm going to go ahead and just piggyback off that one with the Red Sox, a team that we all expect to bounce back, a team we always expect to be competitive with the Yankees, but I think that's a team that's going to just continue to fall. I mean, I think they're going to get dominated by all the pitching that the starting pitching. I think they have the worst starting pitching in my eyes that's there. And, I think you don't replace Mookie Betts, and that's another big hole, and that puts a lot of pressure on the top of the lineup. I think that I am not really too impressed with anyone there. And none of the bullpen guys either. So I think that's a team that is going to fall. The Twins is another team I feel like benefits from a 162-game season. I don't think they have a clear-cut star player. And I think in these kind of short and condensed kind of things, you need, 2-3 top-heavy guys that you could really rely on. And I don't think they have that guy. And even then, I don't think they have an arm either. I like Berrios, but I just don't think the 60 games is really cut out for them. But and also with the Red Sox as well with the pitching. And another team that I'm not gonna say that they're gonna fall and struggle, but I think the Astros. I think Garrett Cole will be missed. I mean, yes, they have a good team, but Verlander's not getting any younger. Greinke, he's the same boat. but you don't replace, Garrett Cole like that, and it's tough, and I think that their hitters are good, but same situation. I think they're gonna be good, but not what the dominant Astros that we're used to.
All right, for me, the first one I think is like very obvious, and both of you have already said the Boston Red Sox. They lost their top two arms, and so Sale had Tommy John, he's done for the year, and Eduardo Rodriguez, he's still recovering from COVID-19. He got the coronavirus, so already there, that's a big issue. And the Red Sox strength wasn't pitching to begin with. And then when you look at what they did to replace Mookie, they got a guy in Alex Verdugo who could be a good player, but I don't know if he'll be able to do it immediately. I just look at the division and if you look at their division, they have to play. The Rays are always very good. The Yankees are one of the best teams in baseball. And then outside of those games, you still have to play against the Atlanta Braves, the Philadelphia Phillies, the New York Mets, the World Series champion Nationals. I already knew they were going to take a step back, but I think it's going to be even more because of the type of schedule they have. And also, out of the 10 games they play against the Yankees, seven of them are in the Bronx. And for another team, I'm going to go with the Cubs. I look at the Cubs and I just see, okay, they lost Joe Madden, so that could cause some issues. I like the hire that they made with David Ross. I think he's a very good option. Has some history with the organization, helped them win a World Series in 2016. But I don't know, I just look at them and I just don't feel as confident as I would in the Cubs in years before. And part of that has to do with the additions that the White Sox have made and the Cincinnati Reds have made. I feel like the Cubs really didn't do too much to improve from last season.
Yeah, so I'm going to throw out the obvious one for me because we're talking about the biggest drop-off. The World Series champion Nationals are now in the toughest division, arguably, and will have one of the hardest schedules to play at. I don't see them repeating. They lost Anthony Rendon, which is the key piece in their lineup from last year. They still have Juan Soto, but you have Strasburg is a year older. I'm sorry, Strasburg. Scherzer's a year older. Strasburg did get paid this offseason, but there's still a lot of question marks. And I think that the fact that their schedule's a little bit tougher, I don't know if they'll be able to bounce back. Remember, they started off super slow. I believe they were 19-31 to start off last year. And obviously they went on this magical run, but they won't have that. They would have to hit, from the go. And I think just a lot has happened for them to actually, be able to repeat as champions. I don't see them being even better than the Phillies this year. I really see them being the fourth best team in the National League East this year. That's really my one drop team. We all talked about the Red Sox here, so I'm not going to continue to talk about the Red Sox here. Let's talk about individual players. I know we had our MLB top 10 players right now. Whoa, lights out for Hector right there. We talked about the top 10 players right now, but obviously with this shortened season, you could see some other guys. We talked about it earlier in the show. Guys aren't going to have, that second half of the year if they start off slow. They got to start off hot and take off. Let's start on the offensive side of things. Who's your AL MVP and then who is your NL MVP?
My AL MVP, we discussed him a little bit, and everybody got really mad at me when I said that this person is a top 10 player in the major leagues when he's healthy. I'm going to go with the big man, Aaron Judge, for AL MVP. I think Aaron Judge is capable. Oh, here we go. Aaron Judge. Oh, they both left. All right, Justin, I'll just talk to you.
Wow. No, I actually love this pick. Love this pick. And I'll wait when you're done, and I'm going to let you know why I love that pick.
No, he's going to play 4 games this year. He's going to win MVP. I'm kidding.
Even the most injury-prone guy can play 60 games. They can make it to 60 games. Aaron Judge might play every single game this year. I'm assuming that he does. So obviously, one pulled groin or one strained hamstring and it's over. But assuming Aaron Judge plays all the games this year, I would not be surprised if he hits 20 jacks and wins the MVP. In the NL, I'm going to give it to Juan Soto. I think Juan Soto is going to take another step this year. He's not an elite defender, but over a 60 game span, it's not really enough time to show too negatively in terms of like his positional value, like the advanced analytics and whatnot. So I don't think the defense is going to be that big of an issue, although he's not horrible. But I think he's going to hit 320, 330, have an OPS over 1,000. I would not be surprised if Soto just tears the cover off the ball for 60 straight games, wins NL MVP, and I think that the Nationals will be back in the playoffs this year.
Okay, speaking of Aaron Judge, I've always said this. Listen, when healthy and in a 162 game season, obviously if he's healthy, if he's hot, that's the only guy in the history of baseball, probably ever, that has a chance to break Barry Bonds' home run record. No one will ever touch that record.
Justin wasn't there in the episode that we did the top 10. That's why. Okay, yeah. I could have used you.
If Judge is hot, as we saw his coming out year, 50 bombs and all that, if with these balls and all that, he gets a hot streak going, obviously he doesn't just roll out of bed and do it. If healthy and hot, in the perfect storm, I think he's the only one that can have a shot at breaking Barry Bonds' record. So I like that as an MVP pick, because if he gets hot in 60 games, which someone could get hot for a third of the season, I could see Judge being an MVP. And the Soto one, I like the Soto pick because what helps Soto is with a star leaving, obviously with the RBIs, what's good about him is that he walks a lot. So it doesn't hurt him to lose a big bat in front of him or behind him, because you got to throw him strikes anyway. And if he's going to have more runs to cash in, he could be an MVP candidate. So I like that pick as well. But I'm going to go with Mike Trout. I think Mike Trout in the AL, it's a clear pick. Everyone will really pick him. But I like that they have a star with him, because that's going to be more strikes for him. A guy who leads the league in the tops and walks every year. So it's a guy you really have to throw to. When throwing strikes to Mike Trout, it's supernatural. It's a superhuman what kind of player he is. So I think he's going to adding a true star that's not 40-year-old Albert Pujols is really going to take Mike Trout's game to the next level. And the NL, the guy that I like a lot, and I just love him, is Ronald Acuna. I think he's extremely, extremely talented. And I wanted him to have that 40-40 so bad, but I think it's another guy that he gets hot, and he's literally, it looked like there was a time last year I felt like he's hitting a home run every game and getting a stolen base every game. So, maybe, if Freeman is out with being sick or whatnot, he's in the 3-hole. I could see him being an MVP.
All right, for me, I'm going to keep it pretty simple. My AL MVP is going to be Michael Trout. Why Mike Trout? Because he's the best player in baseball, Sebastian. And that's why I won the voting, because I had better lists, and I had Mike Trout on my top. Same thing with me, same thing with Sheehan. So, yeah, Mike Trout wins it. And kind of like what Justin said, Anthony Rendon helps Mike Trout, because that's another bat in the lineup you have to worry about. And also, another player that's coming back, and he should be full-time, Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani at the plate has actually been productive. So you're starting to see you're starting to see some more bats in that Angels lineup that's going to start, forcing pitchers to actually pitch to Mike Trout. Also, another guy that, is kind of like undervalued, David Fletcher, the second baseman. Doesn't really have much power, but he's a good contact hitter, and he's going to hit high for average for the Angels. For the National League, I'm thinking out of the box here. Somebody that I honestly didn't think about it until I actually looked at his numbers. I'm going to go from the San Diego Padres, Fernando Tatis Jr. And I'm going with him because I was looking at what he did last year, and he only played like 70 games, but he batted around 320 with over 20 home runs, played great defense, and his WAR, and I think a little bit more, probably a third of a season, was a 4.1. When you look at the voting when it comes to MLB MVP voting, the past few years, the guy with the highest WAR has ended up winning the MVP. And at that time, Fernando Tatis was right up there with everybody else, like guys like Yelich and Acuna, and there's somebody else, and Rendon. They're up there. But at this point, I look at Fernando Tatis. He's going to be fully healthy. I want to see. I'm excited to see what he can do. And if it wasn't for him, being injured and missing out the whole year, Pete would have now won that Rookie of the Year unanimously. He probably would have won, but he would have definitely taken away some of those votes.
So for me, my AL MVP is going to be Matt Chapman. I think he is really underrated. I don't know if it's because he plays for the A's. He just missed my top 10. I know Sheehan was the only one that had him in his top 10.
Where's Ashton? Where's
Huh?
Ashton Kutcher? Matt Chapman?
Matt Chapman. Listen, okay, so let me explain. So defensively, his glove speaks for himself. But if you look at his numbers, he drove in over 100 runs. He hit 36 bombs last year. The only thing, and he finished fourth in MVP voting a year ago. Like, the only knock on him is that he doesn't hit for average. But in a shortened season, there's potential there. If he get hit near 300, even if he hits 280, he hits maybe 20 bombs. That's not out of reach for him. I believe that he could get that, and that's my pick for AL MVP. NL MVP, as already announced, the best player in baseball from here on out is Ronald Acuna Jr. He will be the NL MVP. Not only will he be the NL MVP, he will be the only player to go 20 for 20. He will hit 20 home runs and steal 20 bases in 60 games. Ronald Acuna for MVP, and Braves, watch out for them in the playoffs because they have the best player in the league. All right, let's switch over now to the Cy Young Award winners. This one's actually kind of interesting here. There's a lot of options this year. I think there's a lot of options this year. I don't know who wants to take the first crack at it.
I'll get us started. So in the NL, keeping it simple, not trying to overthink this, I'm going to go with Jacob deGrom. He's the best pitcher in baseball. He honestly, I don't think he cares if there's crowds, if there's nobody in the stands.
If he gets run support.
Yeah, run support. It really doesn't matter to him. He gets on the mound. He has one job to do, and that's get the hitter he's facing out, and he does it better than anybody in the world. So he's still in his prime, hasn't lost anything off his fastball. I'm going to go with Jacob deGrom. In the AL, here's my Rays guy. This is my wild card. In the time that he pitched last year, there was nobody in the major leagues that was even close to Tyler Glasno. Tyler Glasnow is absolutely untouchable when he is healthy. He had coronavirus. He just came back. He's also coming off of an injury. But like I said, same reason I picked Judge. I trust anybody to stay healthy over a 60-game span. If Tyler Glasnow, I think I'm saying his name right. If Tyler Glasnow can stay healthy over 60 games, which I think he can, I would not be surprised if he has like a 1.6 ERA and strikes out like 13 per 9. That's how much I trust his stuff. He was absolutely unhittable when he was pitching last year, but then he got hurt.
Yeah, so in the AR, I'm going to go with Garrett Cole. I'm going to go with Garrett Cole, and I'm going to go with Max Scherzer. Two guys that, yes, they're playing in a tougher side, but what I like about them in a 60-game season, they're really going to have probably 12 starts, and those guys are very overpowering. And those guys are fresh, going full throttle, really, not that many innings. I think those guys are so tough to hit. Garrett Cole has a super heavy bowling ball type of fastball, and I think he's just going to dominate. And I'm not a fan of Yankees pitchers ever, or, people that got to pitch in Fenway and Camden Yards and all that. But I think his stuff is so overpowering. And I like Scherzer, and as well, I like Strasburg as well, too, for that same reason. Just a guy who's had so much talent, but had a lot of injuries, who looked really good so far. And I think that's a guy in a short season that could dominate. So I love both of the Nationals pitchers and Garrett Cole.
All right, for me, I'm gonna go with, for the National League, I'm gonna go with Sheehan. I'm gonna pick Jacob deGrom. He's just, I'm gonna get just kind of like Mike Trout. I'm gonna continue to pick him until he proves me otherwise. deGrom's going off back-to-back years, Cy Young Award winner. So why not 3? I like him, even though he's gonna be facing against tougher hitters. I think he still has the stuff to, put up Cy Young type numbers. And for the American League, I'm going to go with the young kid that I like a lot. He was this past year's All-Star Game MVP. I'm going to go with Shane Bieber. And the reason why I'm going with Shane Bieber is because of the type of numbers he put up last year. 3.24 ERA, strike K per 9 was around 11, and he's gonna benefit a lot from facing the Royals, and there's another team in the Central that is really bad. Who's the Tigers? He's gonna benefit facing off those guys a lot. So and some of you guys think the Twins are gonna take a step back. That's another reason why he could take that next step forward. And also he'll play against the Pirates, and the Pirates offensively are one of the worst teams in baseball. So I think Shane Bieber benefits from his schedule and wins the AL Cy Young Award.
So I have, I guess, not really two surprises. I'll start with the NL. So for the NL, I was checking to see if he was going to make it back in time. It seems like he's not. Walker Buehler was my guy originally. I think that he is a future multiple Cy Young Award winner, but it won't be this year. I'm going to go with Jack Flaherty this year, pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals in the NL. The guy is a monster. And then towards the end of last year, I mean, he basically carried that team, even through the playoffs. I mean, you just saw it, dude. That's a future star in the game. And in a short season, I could see him really balling out. I think there was a stat that said, like, in 15 starts last year, I think in his last 15 starts he had a sub-1 ERA, something crazy like that. So that's a guy, and especially with the Cardinals, that is such a defensively sound team. With Yachty, this is Yachty being his last year, and him managing that pitching staff. Like, I could see Jack Flaherty doing incredible things this year in that short season. And then in the AL, kind of a sleeper, Lucas Giolito. I love Lucas Giolito. He's gotten better every single year. He was an All-Star last year, 14-game winner, had over 200 strikeouts. I could see, again, I'm pretty big on the White Sox. I really think they're going to sneak up on some teams, and that could be a guy that could end up being 8-0, 9-0 for the year. Something sub-3 ERA, and could have a decent amount of strikeouts in the season, and could ultimately end up winning it. Enough of individual awards, though, guys. Let's talk about division winners, and then we'll give our World Series predictions. Let's break it down. Go ahead and run through all of the divisions. Name off all your winners and why, and then we'll go to the next guy.
In my National League East, I'm going with the Atlanta Braves. I think the Nationals are still going to be good. I think they're still going to make the playoffs, but I think the Braves are going to be a super team this year. In the NL Central, I'm going to go with the Reds. They were one of the sleepers I talked about. I love their top three, and I love their offense. I think specifically, obviously, you can go with their big guys, but one guy that I think is going to have a bounce back year this year is Joey Vada. I think he has a little bit more left in the tank, and over a 60-game span where, that's 37-year-old body doesn't have to, deal with the dog days of summer and play 145 games. I think he's still going to be the Joey Vada of old. And in my AL West, keep it simple. It's the Dodgers. They have, two of the top 10 players in the major leagues in their outfield. They're squatted up. It doesn't matter if they don't have David Price. Clayton Kershaw, I think, is going to be still Clayton Kershaw this year. The end is not happening yet, obviously. It's the Dodgers. In the AL East, keeping it simple again, it's the Yankees. They added Garrett Cole to an already stacked roster. Nothing really to think about here. And they're not in that. They're gonna. The East is strong, but I don't think it's gonna really affect them. In the Central, I'm going to go with the Indians. I love how they treat their starting pitchers. They don't baby them. They let them go 7, 8, 9. And that's why I do love your Bieber pick, Hector, because over a 60-game span, they already let their pitchers go long in a 162-game season. I wouldn't doubt it if they open them up even more over a 60-game season, just because it's such a sprint. So I think the way they play the game plays even better in a 60-game span. And in the AL West, I'm still going with the Astros. I think they will take a step back this year. Forrest Whitley is not Garrett Cole. There's only one Garrett Cole. But they still have enough studs to be able to win their division.
All right, so In the NL East, I'm gonna go with the Nationals. I like the two big starting pitchers that I said could both, get a Cy Young award. I love Soto and what he brings, and I just love them. That's the Nationals, World Series winning champions. I like them. I'm gonna go with the Cardinals. I love the pick, Flaherty by Sebastian, because that's another guy I like, and I like Nicholas. I'm big in Goldschmidt, and I like the Cardinals. I like what they bring through the lineup, depth, and obviously with Yachty being there, I think it's gonna boost those two guys, those two starting pitchers very well. I'm gonna go with the Dodgers, obvious reasons. I think that's just a clear-cut favorite team in that division. I'm gonna go with the Yankees, with adding Garrett Cole on a team that also has a lot of superstars. I'm gonna go with the Indians in that division because I just think that's a team that division really is up for grabs. But I think that's a team that has 2-3 really pretty good arms, and I love Jose Ramirez and Lindor and what those guys got. I think Ramirez is another sneaky kind of MVP candidate kind of guy. A guy hits a lot of doubles, home runs. He drives in a lot of runs, and that guy, when he's hot, he has times where he's taking over the MLB. And I'm gonna go with the Houston Astros in the West.
All right, for me, I'm going to go NL East. I'm going to go with the Atlanta Braves. I think right now they're the most complete team in that division. They're top heavy in pitching. I think Mike Foltzy, makes improvements. Soroka is already one of the top young arms in baseball. And they already have a lethal lineup that just added another power bat in Yasiel Puig. So that's my winner for the East. The Central, I'm going to go with the Reds. I just like the moves that they made in the offseason. I think they take that next step, and I still think they're going to be a playoff team. If they don't win the division, I think they're going to make us a wild card team. But for me, I'm going to pick the Reds here. The NL West, it's the Dodgers, and they run that division. They've been running it for a while right now. I think they cruise to a division title. The AL East, about the same thing. I'm going Yankees. I think the only team that could really compete with them at this moment is the Tampa Bay Rays. But I think the Yankees just have too much firepower when it comes to offense and pitching. So I'm going to take the Yankees there. The Central, I'm going with the White Sox. And I talked about why I think the White Sox are going to be a sleeper team this year. And I think a lot of people are going to be surprised by this organization. So I'm going to go with the White Sox. I think Giolito – somebody mentioned Giolito being a Cy Young candidate. I think he had his breakout year last year, and I could see him taking the next step. And they also added two, good veteran arms in Dallas Keuchel and Gio Gonzalez. And in the AL West, I think the Astros still win, but it's going to be close. I think they win, but I think the Oakland Athletics are still going to compete. They're still going to do well. I like the two lefties that they have coming up in AJ Puck and Jesus Luzardo. Luzardo is a Florida kid. And I also think the Angels can make a run of the postseason. Joe Madden, he, like Sebastian said, he wins everywhere he goes. And then with the additions of Anthony Rendon, a healthy Shohei Ohtani, and maybe even Joe Adele, their top prospect, maybe even he makes the the starting day lineup. If he does, that's a talent right there. So who knows? I still like Houston because I think Forrest Whitey is gonna help, in the post Garrett Cole era, and also I think they're gonna have some of Lance McCullers. And Lance McCullers was a quality arm when he pitched.
Yeah, so again, NL East, clear favorite there. The Braves, they are the most complete team. I love their signing of Yasiel Puig to replace Nick Markakis. Super big signing there. They're so deep. Lineup, starting pitching, bullpen. I mean, the NL East is really, really tough this year. There's a lot of good teams, but I think they are the best team. And again, they have the best player in the league in Ronald Acuna Jr. If you go to the Central was a little bit tough for me because the teams that are the four favorites, or I guess like the most ideal teams, or the three most ideal teams, the Brewers, the Cardinals, and the Cubs, all have question marks. And because it is a shortened season and it's really about who's going to get hot, I really believe that the Reds have an opportunity. I'm not as big as you guys on the Reds, but I do think that they are more complete, and there's a little bit less of a question mark. I think the only question mark is just like they're the Reds. You get me? Like they've been the last place team in this division for the last couple of years. That it's hard to see them going from last to first. But every year there's one team that jumps from worst to first, and I think it's going to be the Reds this year. The Dodgers, clear cut favorite again, like all you guys said. Out of the NL West, I think they're the most complete team out there in the West. You got Walker Buehler coming back at some point. You still have Clayton Kershaw. They have an unreal lineup still. The reigning MVP. We'll see if he's able to duplicate what he did last year. But yeah, Dodgers coming out of the West. The AL East, man. I almost don't want to pick the Yankees. Like I don't see the Yankees. Like I have a feeling something's gonna happen to the Yankees at some point. Something's gonna happen to the Yankees, but I'm gonna give them the division because the Orioles are still rebuilding. The Blue Jays are a little young. Watch out for the Blue Jays being the sleeper as well. I think they have some talent, but they're maybe like a year or two away. The Rays are going to be good, but I don't know if they'll be better than the Yankees. And then the Red Sox they have a lot of injuries there. I don't see anybody beating the Yankees. And the Central, I'm going to stick with the Twins, man. At the end of the day, you can't discredit what they did last year. They hit over 300 home runs as a team. They were a very good offensive unit, and then their one downfall was their starting pitching, and they added Kenta Maeda and Rich Hill, which is a little boost to go alongside Jose Barrios. I think, again, much like the NL Central, there are a lot of question marks in there. I'm not really sold on the Indians. They did let Corey Kluber walk. There's still some things that they got to figure out. And then I'm not opposed to selecting the White Sox. I just think, again, there's a lot of unknown there, and I feel like the Twins are the most ready team really to win a division. And then in the West, I want to go A's. I want to go with the Oakland A's, but I feel like the Astros are just too good, and they just have something to prove. Everything has worked out to the Astros' favor. We've mentioned this before. Like, the fact that there's not going to be any fans in the stands, they don't have to deal with any of that. Are they going to deal with getting thrown at and shit like that from teams? Probably, but I don't even know, because it's like if it's a shortened season, like you can't just throw away a game unless the game's already out of hand. I think the Astros are basically just going to come out and try to prove a point. I don't think the Angels are ready just now. I think that they still got to figure out some things on the pitching side, and then the A's somehow always find a way to not win the division and end up with a wild card spot. So those are my picks. And my World Series picks, I'm gonna give you guys two before we get into it. I have two picks. I have one that I think will happen, and the other one that I want to happen. Go ahead, somebody. World Series predictions for this year.
All right. So for me, I think this is finally the year the Dodgers finally win the World Series. I think this is the year, I think once Walker Buehler recovers, I think he's going to be a difference maker. But the addition of Mookie Betts, I think, puts them over. They don't really have any, they really don't have anybody in the division that's, really a threat to take away the division from them. I think they're going to cruise to the playoffs, and then that's when they're going to really turn it on. I think this is the year that they finally get the job done, that David Roberts finally, gets over the hump, gets the monkey off his back. Kershaw wins a ring. So that's my pick. And if I had to go anybody else, I'm going to go with the American League team. And it's boring because it's the two teams that everyone thinks is going to win. I think it's the Yankees, especially if Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge can be healthy for a full season, or at least for most of the season. I think that lineup, and then with the addition of Garrett Cole to that rotation and that bullpen, that is just they have closer type arms. I think they have like 3 or 4 guys that can probably close on other teams. That I think those guys can be difference makers. I think the only way the Yankees win it is if Judge and Giancarlo are playing in the postseason and are healthy.
See you, Hector.
Thank you. See you guys.
Man.
So in the AL, like Hector, I think it's just way too obvious. It's the Yankees. Last year they dealt with a litany of injuries, and they still won over 100 games. there's something about playing in pinstripes. You just rise to the occasion when you're called upon. So I'm not even scared of them being down a few guys. If one guy gets the coronavirus, if a guy, I don't know, strains his oblique or something like that, the Yankees have depth for days, and I think they're going to come out of the AL. In the NL, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to go with the Miami Marlins. I don't know. I would never. One day, though. No, in the NL, I'm going to say the Braves. I think the Dodgers will have to continue to wait. It's going to be a Yankees-Braves World Series, classic 90s matchup brought to the 2020s. And I think the Yankees are going to come out on top. They're a super team.
Well, I mean, I think, the AL, I think it's clear that, Yankees and Astros, and I think the Yankees are going to take it there, but I think the team that's going to win it is the Dodgers. What I like about the Dodgers, besides the fact they're just the team that always has made it far the past couple of years, but I think adding obviously a good player with talent and Mookie Betts, but I think what Mookie Betts adds is that he's a leader, and I think he was a big leader on the Red Sox team. A lot of guys looked up to him. He's like a funny guy, outgoing guy, and I think he's going to bring that leadership and that championship World Series energy to the Dodgers. And I think he's going to be a perfect fit for all those guys with Bellinger and all the great players they have over there. And I think the Dodgers are going to take it. But another thing I wanted to piggyback on, I didn't get to talk about earlier, was with Sebastian. And it's another sleeper in a way, is I really like the Philadelphia Phillies. I think people don't understand the kind of impact Joe Girardi could have on that Phillies team. That was one of the worst firings I think I've ever seen, and it was stupid. And they replaced him with Aaron Boone, who, take away that Tim Wakefield home run, does he get hired? Does he get that job? I don't think so. I think that guy, sorry to say, I think he's a bum. And Joe Girardi is a guy who knows the game, catcher, players coach. I could see a star player like Bryce Harper really benefiting from having a manager who he really trusts and loves. They have a ton of good hitters. They have young pitching that at any given moment could be those Cy Young type of guys. And I think that Phillies team could be a last year's Washington Nationals, a team that's just 1 through 9 hits, lots of talent on the mound. And I think Joe Girardi could be that piece. And that was another reason why I like the Angels, because Joe Madden, I think, benefits, with having those star players. It takes these star players, it's, they have to respect the manager. And Mike Trout's a great player and a quiet guy, but having Joe Madden around with the star, those guys really respect him. And I think Joe Girardi has that same thing with the Nationals, and why I like them as well. It's kind of like a sleeper World Series team.
Dude,
Vince
managers,
Velasquez has that gear in him, that Cy Young gear. That would be big for the Phillies.
Vince Velasquez gets a ton of strikeouts, I like him.
He just hasn't put it all together, but if he can.
Yeah.
And it's not just him, man. You're talking about Aaron Nola. I mean, they have so much talent on that team, but yeah, that's right. They signed Zach Wheeler, man. Like they have so much talent on that team, and I think Joe Girardi is that guy. Like, he knows how to win with talent. Clearly, he did it with the Yankees for I don't know how many years. But even then, like, he just knows how to manage. He won Manager of the Year with the Marlins the first year that we had Hanley and Dan Uggla, all these rookies here, because he knows how to manage, bro. And like Justin said, like I was surprised that they let him go. But I think is that the manager position in baseball gets overlooked, especially today with like analytics and stuff like that. Dude, it makes a difference, man. You're not gonna tell me that any manager would have won with the Cubs in 2016. Granted, he almost cost them that World Series, but Joe Madden is a great manager. He turned the Tampa Bay Rays around. He took them from a 67-win team to a 97-win team, took them to the World Series. Like, it's insane. And Joe Girardi's going to have that same type of impact on the Phillies. I don't think that they're ready to win right now, but they're going to win at least 2 rings during Bryce Harper's time there if they continue to bring in talent and bring in prospects.
We talk about them enough because remember, we forget that they have JT Realmuto, who everyone was saying was the best catcher in baseball.
He is the best catcher.
Reese Hoskins. Maybe talk about Bryce Harper. I'm not that I think he's the best player. I think he is could be the most talented. He could be that guy, and I would love for him to take off for what he brings to the game. If Bryce Harper comes out hot and he's filling up like ESPN, fans are going to tune. Everyone's going to be seeing because everyone knows Bryce Harper. Everyone knows his story and how he's this big. He was supposed to be this next thing, and I want to love to see him put it together on a team that makes a run, and he, in a shortened season. So I feel like a lot of tension will be on this season, and that's another guy who comes out hot could really sneak an MVP too.
Just want to throw this out there. I've mentioned it before. Bryce Harper is the true face of baseball, not Mike Trout. But discussion for another day.
And business reasons, yeah.
Yeah, but
I would say it's either Harper or Judge. One of them.
Yeah, conversation for another day. Judge, yes. I think he needs to stay a little bit healthier though. But the fact that he plays for the Yankees definitely helps. For me, so my World Series pick, I told you guys I had two. One that I think is going to be the most likely to happen, and it was Sheehan's World Series, the Braves and the Yankees. I think they're the best team in both divisions, and I feel like just the bad luck just follows the Dodgers everywhere, man. The fact that they're missing David Price, that is going to be a key factor because that's a huge piece that they're missing. Anyways, I think the Braves are going to win it, even though the Braves also have some bad luck in the playoffs too. I mean, you saw that last year, but I think this is their year. I think again they're the most complete team. And then the Yankees are just the best team in the AL. I think they're the most complete team in the AL. So that's the World Series. But the World Series that I would want to see, and I think you guys are on board with me, man, is the Dodgers and the Astros. I would love to see that fucking rematch, bro. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, dude? Like, I would love to see that happen. That's the one. And think about it. Like, MLB is going to lose so much in ratings because they decided to delay. Like, that's the most, like, that would be the most watched World Series in years, bro. Like, Dodgers, Astros, take two, no more fucking banging the trash cans. Like, dude, this is in the year after they got caught, bro. That would be fucking legendary. Although the Yankees have to get some payback with the Astros too. I can see a 4-0 sweep, or maybe a gentleman's sweep for the Astros when they play the Yankees in the playoffs.
There's a lot of people that have some payback on the Astros, but Rob Manfred should just try to rig it. Like pay the Dodgers to trade for Mike Fiers at the deadline, so that Mike Fiers is pitching against the Astros in the World Series. Just
what?
Make it like WWE.
That'll be.
Bro, Game 7 of the World Series. Dodgers, Astros, bro. Mike Fiers on the mound, bro. The Dodgers, bro. Are you kidding me? What?
I need to get a Mike Fiers jersey, man.
Bro.
I need to get a Mike Fiers jersey.
That guy's.
Hey, any final thoughts here?
Yeah, I think you guys are absolutely crazy with the White Sox. I think that's nuts. I'll be honest.
What?
I think that's a team on paper. A lot of has-beens, a lot of prospects that are not really panning out like that. Like
a lot has to break their way for sure.
Yeah, man. I think you see Keiko and Gio Gonzalez and Grandal and Moncada, and those are
this is why we said sleeper. I didn't have him winning the division.
Oh, no,
this is why I said sleeper.
I just think we talked about them too much for being a washed up kind of team.
Too much White Sox on the show.
Yeah, it was too much. The wrong Chicago team.
Oh my god.
But Sebastian loves to pounce on the Cubs.
Bro, no, it's like I will never even talk about them unless I absolutely have to, bro. They're literally, dude. We could have an entire episode about Chicago sports, but fucking Cubs. Yeah, bro.
My final thoughts are that, like I said in the beginning, this season's going to be janky, but I don't think another thing that would kind of ruin it for a lot of fans is if you see some kind of stupid World Series like Blue Jays, Reds, or something like that. Something that probably wouldn't happen in a normal 162 game season. But I think, although the Reds are going to be good, I think that it's still going to have a normal outcome in terms of who's going to be in the playoffs, who's going to win the World Series, who's going to make it to the World Series. So at least we have that. Hopefully the players stay healthy, and hopefully the Marlins surprise some people this year.
And that's another thing I wanted to cover too. Sorry, Sebastian. I hope that really a lot of people don't get sick with coronavirus, and it'll take out a good team like the Nationals or like the Astros or the Yankees. Like some team that really loses out 2 or 3 really good players, and it takes them out of the equation, and it kind of ruins the season for them. That would really suck, and it could damage a lot of teams.
It's gonna happen though, man. Like it happens every single year, whether corona or no corona. Like some teams are gonna get bounced. Obviously, if it's due to COVID, it's a different story. But like it's bound to happen. You're gonna have that one surprise team that we probably didn't even mention. We mentioned almost all 30 teams, and one of those teams that we didn't talk about, like maybe like I don't know, the Padres or something, could sneak up in there and make a run at it. Like it happens every year, and that's what I love about baseball, man. It's just like look at. It's the one sport that dynasties just literally don't exist. Like the last dynasty was the Yankees back in the late 90s. And I think that whatever, if it does happen, like obviously nobody wants to see a Blue Jays Reds World Series, for example, but I don't think it'll get there. I think at the end of the day, the best teams are always going to win. Whether the seeding might be a little bit different. If somebody sneaks up there to get a high seed, usually it works itself out, man. Like you don't have that first timer in the playoffs. Knock out a Yankees team or an experienced playoff team, and it usually works itself out in baseball. So hopefully we get a good season and it ends up being worth the wait, I guess, and hopefully we're able to actually finish the season too. But that's it for this one, guys. Take care. See you next week.
See ya.
Later.
Long episode right there, but we did cover a lot. Shout out to the crew. That's going to be all for this one. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all platforms: YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Apple Music. Make sure you go ahead and rate, like, everything you got to do, and share with your friends, guys. Let's help grow the podcast. Until next time, I'm signing off.